Well, his resume spans all the way from Salt Lake City, Utah to Boston, Massachusetts to right here in Pittsburgh. From Trib Live, Steelers Radio Network, and Duquesne University, we have with us Tim Benz.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you outside of a press box. I know I'm still making you work or talk to an audience, but it's nice
That's
to
what I
have
do.
you.
I'm used to it. It's okay under these circumstances.
Okay, yeah. So why don't we start? How about you give us a little bit of a background on how you broke into the industry, preparation that other people trying to break into the sports media industry can take?
Well, the way I broke into the industry was pretty simple. I just had a love and a passion for sports, and somewhere along the way, I would say roughly in 6th or 7th grade, I realized I wasn't going to grow much more. So there was not much of a calling for the Steelers to have a 5'6" quarterback. I made that realization early in my life. Okay. So from the hop, I knew that I wanted to be in sports broadcasting because that was probably my best way to go about staying in the sports industry without trying to chase a dream that I knew I was never going to achieve with my athletic limitations. So actually, I started very early in high school. My local TV outlet, local cable outlet in Guilford, Connecticut, which is where I grew up. I'm the son of a transplanted Pittsburgh sports fan, which is where my Pittsburgh fan aficionado attitude came from. And I was living in Connecticut, and there was Guilford Community Television. And Guilford Community Television was an old-fashioned streamed sports talk shows, streamed all the high school games. So I was doing play-by-play and hosting a talk show on community TV when I was 15, 16 years old.
So it's mostly about networking.
Largely about networking,
okay.
Yeah. My first job coming out of college, I actually worked professionally for the college radio station. Okay. WAER is the name of the college radio station that still exists at Syracuse. It's a national public radio affiliate. So what they would do is almost have like an externship for 1 or 2 students a year in the news department. So I did sports my whole career there, but they were paying the bills with news. And I came out making something to the effect of $18,000 to $25,000 in my first job coming out of school back in 1992 with full university benefits, which of course would never happen nowadays.
No.
But
No.
it allowed me to stay in the business, and then I branched out and did some sports stuff on the side. I was lucky. 2 guys left the NBC affiliate in Syracuse at the same time and got some pinch hitting opportunities in the desk there. They launched an ESPN radio affiliate out of a janitor's closet at the Channel 3 building. It just so happened that the 2 were in the same building, so I would do sportscasts on my lunch break. So I'd do news in the morning. On my lunch break, I'd go to James Street down the hill from Syracuse University. I'd tape up sportscasts, come back, do more news, and that kind of kept me in the game for sports. And next thing I knew, an opportunity broke with another guy that passed up a job from Syracuse. He said, "You might be interested in this," and it was a producer/update guy job out in Salt Lake City. Okay. So I took a 50% pay cut, went out there to Salt Lake, and next thing you know, I started my sports career.
So how did you've been Connecticut, Pittsburgh, Salt Lake, how does
Columbus, Boston, yeah.
Fandoms, how do those cultures mix or translate to one another? Was it a difficult transition for you to move to?
Yeah, sometimes it has been. It was actually the easiest transition I think that I had was coming from Columbus to Pittsburgh when I got here in 2001, because if you're a Steelers fan, a Pirates fan, a Penguins fan, fan of Duquesne, Pitt, one of the local colleges, that is an easier indoctrination, as I found out, than being born in Boston, growing up in New England, then going back and covering the Patriots as a Steelers fan. The fact that my blood was black and gold more so than red, that seemed to matter here in Pittsburgh. So that was the easiest transition I had. And
I know you graduated in 1996?
96, yeah.
96. That was the year I was born.
Thanks for that.
Sorry to put a timestamp on it, but that just shows how much experience you have. Speaking of...
Is that what it shows, or does it just show how old I am?
About this being a media industry now, you can stream ESPN on computers, and that's where media as a whole is transitioning. How did technology changes either enhance your abilities or create a diverse skill set for you?
That's a good question, and it's something that started, I believe, in the era when I was getting out of school, because the internet was starting to boom at that point. Unlike you, I can't remember a time when there was no internet. So the diversification of things going on the internet, the skills that needed to be translatable from, a lot of the stuff I do now, I'm a columnist and a talk show host and a play-by-play guy. Technology spread all that out. That wasn't necessarily the case as much when I was coming out of school. You might do a little TV, you might do a little radio, you might write on the side, but it was more condensed. It was more pigeonholed back then. Right. It was starting to branch out in the mid to late 90s. Now that has to be something that people do. You got to dabble. I think if in your situation coming out of school, I would dabble in a little bit of everything.
Right.
Because you cross-pollinate so much. And if you are multifaceted and you can write a column, you can do some play-by-play, you can do some TV, you can do some radio, that's great, because with so few jobs hiring full-time anymore and benefits being such an issue, if you can stockpile and you can put in the hours that somebody like me does and almost make yourself a full-time freelancer, which is what I was doing for a while, you can make a good buck. And you can always have a lily pad to hop on if something else goes away. And when you see a lot of companies merging, a lot of jobs merging, major companies merging, that means jobs get pared down. That means opportunities disappear. That means stations disappear. Newspapers disappear.
Right.
So given all that, it's best to be as multifaceted as possible so you can take your skills elsewhere if, the hierarchy of your company, whether you do the best damn job possible or not, goes in a different direction.
Right. So it kind of vets out the one-trick ponies, like people who can only speak or people who can only write. Duquesne's major, the sports media and information major, which is what I'm a part of, it's a combination of public relations, communication, digital media, so it's a little bit of a mix of everything. And I think the department, as well as the student bodies, trying to gauge, because it's new last year, it was just implemented, so I'll be one of the first people to graduate with a degree, which is really cool. However, it kind of muddies the waters a little bit about maybe skills that should be more focused on. So is there anything in the media industry that you would like to see change or be enhanced?
Yeah, I'd love to see people paid more handsomely for the content that they produce, so you don't have to be hopping around so much and taking in as many jobs, especially when you're young. What would I like to see change from the media industry's point of view? That's less about the hiring practices and maybe more about the attitudes, more about understanding what drives listenership, viewership, readership. There's this constant yin and yang that I've seen throughout my career, be it on radio, be it in print, certainly what has become largely more and more the death of local TV. People, I think, in hiring positions on the executive level think they know what they want when it comes to entertainment, almost blurring the lines between, I don't want to say journalism and entertainment, but you can. People know that titillating topics move the needle. Controversy draws attention. Hot button topics also bring opinions, and sometimes opinions aren't universally liked. So I think part of the issue that some local outlets get into is, here's something that's going to get a lot of attention, but heaven forbid any of it's negative.
Now, your resume is so hefty and versatile. Do you prefer doing local? I know you have credits with the Steelers, you have credits with NEC, Duquesne. Do you prefer a smaller market with like a smaller company for more local things, or do you prefer
I think pretty much, even in New York or LA or Boston, it's still a market. So as big of a market as you get, you're still talking local sports. There's still that lean of, even if you're in New York City, people want to hear about the Mets, the Yankees, the Giants, the Jets, the Knicks, more so than they do, even if it's a big story that, the Cowboys upset the Saints. That's a big story nationally, but on a local level, they're probably more concerned about what kind of yardage output Odell Beckham Jr. is having. So, if I do talk or columns or opinion things, I want to do them about the teams that I care about. So that means I don't want to go anywhere but Pittsburgh. I tried it once. I didn't like it. I'm glad I came back. So from an opinion standpoint, yeah, I'd prefer to do this. I've done a little national talk. I listen to national talk. It's so surface. It's so simple. and there's so much missed of the nuance of every story. I don't know. I think I'd fatigue on that pretty quickly.
Okay. Now, do you think your fandom inherited from your father, your black and gold blood, as you say, do you think that has any influence on how you should be unbiased as a reporter, per se, or a journalist, when you do opinion pieces on how the Steelers are doing?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody who has known my work over roughly 15 to 18 years now in this market would ever consider me a homer. You know, in fact, maybe largely the opposite, that I'm too critical. I'm too on them when they lose. I give them too hard of a time even when they win. And that comes from a place of I want to see them win all the time, and if they don't, then I'm going to be critical because I think this is what they can do to make it better. I don't like root for the home team and recycle whatever the team tells you to say, because then you're not being a reporter or a opinion maker, you're being a PR agent.
I actually started college as a theater major. I did theater my whole life.
I was a theater minor.
So I transitioned to, you know what, I really like talking as myself. I really like playing, you know, Michela on screen, maybe a different character than Michela in real life. And I always remember during shows, I would have my pre-show ritual. Do you have a pre-show or pre-broadcast ritual for Tim on screen or Tim on the radio?
I don't have a ritual per se, like in the morning when I wake up and start doing work. I mean, the first thing that I do, I don't do Red Bull, I do a pot of coffee.
Whole pot?
Yeah. Well,
does it all fit in one mug, or like?
It's a pretty big pot. Yes, okay. Yeah. So, because I work from home in the mornings a lot now.
Okay.
You know, and even when I was doing the show on the X, when I was getting in there at 5 o'clock in the morning or so, I don't know that I would have a ritual per se, but there's almost a mental checklist of what you've got to do to get on the air. You know, I don't look in the mirror and do I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people are going to like me. Like, I don't do the Stuart Smalley thing, I never have. But it's more of a preparation ritual of going to certain sites, checking certain people's feeds on Twitter, listening to updates from other stations, your own outlet, see what people are talking about. It's almost like it's less high school theater and it's more NASA, and that just sort of, you know, I might have a ritualistic beer at night to start the next day to kind of clear my head from what I just went through that day to start up for what I'm going through the next day.
It's so nice to know that people are human. And I've been in the press box with you, and to see the transition from, oh, what's your major? So what are you studying? Where are you from? Blah, 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 to, and we're back. It's just amazing to me. It's like flipping a switch. So it's nice to know that people are human.
Well, then you've seen like the ritual I'm talking about when you come in and you see where I have everything taped up.
Right.
Like, you know, I have the referees' names here. I've got the, you know, numbers of the players here. I've got special teams over here. Like, there's sort of a, you know, in your own mind the way it's supposed to look.
Right.
And again, I'll use the NASA analogy. It's like Apollo 13. You have Gary Sinise in the training module to tell the guys up in the real spacecraft that's rocketing off the atmosphere, this is how you're going to get home.
Down to a science.
Yeah, so you kind of know where it is, and you can very quickly access. So that's more of the ritual that I have for a play-by-play game, you know.
Like I said, me on screen, very different from who I am. But you have to have that separation because, like you said, the lines between PR and broadcasting just get blurred sometimes.
Right.
And in a world where media is so prevalent, and my personal social media might be taken as my professional social media, which you really should keep it classy and keep it clean, it's important to kind of constantly have broadcast him.
Yeah, I think you never want to be somebody else, and I think people who are somebody else on the radio or on television than who they are in real life, eventually it comes through.
Right.
You can't BS people all the time. And it bothers me when I hear people, I know what they're like away from the microphone and I know what they're trying to be like on the microphone. Mm-hmm. I hate that. But I think the people that are the most successful are the ones who maybe bring a heightened version of who they are in real life to the air, but that's who they are. That's their real personality.
Well, that seems to be all the time we have, but we'll catch you in the Palumbo Center on Wednesday for the Marshall game.
Right. Duquesne against Marshall on Wednesday night. I'll be on the call with Ellis Cannon, so make sure you're watching if you can't be there on ESPN+. And if you're a Duquesne basketball fan or football fan during the football season, we've got the Duquesne Coaches Show on Thursday on AT&T Sportsnet at 5:30.